don't really listen to what anybody else says. You have this amazing gift. Not just that, whilst I was on the tour, I also learned some pretty important skills whilst I was there, and certainly some values that I carried across from my time over in Birmingham. If you want to go over and dance over in Ireland, go do it. Don't let anyone tell you that your dream is too big or too small. Nothing's impossible if you put your mind to it. Dancing at local scout hall, who then went over to Australia for their first competition, to the World Championships, to then decide that they want to move all the way to the other side of the world to carry out a dream of theirs. What was my favourite memory whilst I was on the tour with A Taste of Ireland? Hey guys, my name's Harry Bartlett. I'm 22 years old and I'm from Auckland, New Zealand. I'm one of the dancers here at A Taste of Ireland, and I've been with the company for just over a year now, and this is my journey to the stage. So I originally started Irish dancing at the age of 4.5. My mum's goddaughter Carey originally got me into Irish dancing. She used to come to our house and show us and put the original Lord of the Dance on the TV. I used to get up off the couch and give my best Flatley impression, and my family thought it would be a really good idea to enroll me down at the local Irish dance classes at our local scout hall. My parents really knew nothing about Irish dancing at the time. My dad was a rugby player, and growing up my mum used to be a BMX rider. So when they enrolled me, they kind of thought, he's only going to dance for like a couple of weeks and be done with it. But from then until now at 22, I've loved every single moment of it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So growing up as an Irish dancer here in New Zealand as a male definitely had its struggles, especially being so far from the epicenter of Irish dancing in Ireland, which is for us here in New Zealand more than a 27-hour plane ride away. When I was at school, no one really knew what Irish dancing was. They really kind of just associated it with St. Patrick's Day. And definitely, most guys, it's very much a rugby nation here in New Zealand, and sailing and lots of other sports. I definitely used to get a bit of stick from it from school, just because no one really understood what I was doing. I always knew what my end goal and end dream at the end of the day was, and I didn't listen to what those people said, because I wanted to achieve the goals that I had set out for myself, really no matter what anybody else thought. And I would also say that to anyone else who is getting a bit of stick for their dancing, or don't really listen to what anybody else says. You have this amazing gift, and if you're passionate about it, you should really go out there and achieve your goals. So when I won my first New Zealand Nationals in 2007, that was when I first knew that I wanted to take Irish dancing quite seriously. At the time I was really only doing 1 to 2 classes a week, because it was very much like a hobby and just something kind of fun I did. And then when I won for the first time, I was like, this is something that I want to be kind of good at. So I then moved to the Doyle Academy of Irish Dance with Paula and Leanne Doyle, and I was very grateful to their guidance. I won an additional 8 New Zealand national championships, the Australian International Oireachtas, 4th at the North American Championships, and a personal best of 13th in the world with them at that time. So I'm very grateful for that. And in terms of internationally wanting to take my dancing very seriously, it wasn't until I did my first World Championships in Boston in 2013. I didn't recall at my first Worlds, but going over there, it certainly opened a whole new door for me. Very much living in New Zealand and being literally on the other side of the world of where Irish dancing originates. New Zealand was really all I ever knew at the time. So going to my first Worlds and really seeing the caliber and the level of what dancing was over there, it just really opened my eyes. And from that moment forward, that's when I knew that my dream was to ultimately dance for a school overseas and try to become the best Irish dancer I could possibly be. So I first initially travelled overseas on my own when I was 16 years old. I moved over there to train with the Carey Academy before the Montreal World Championships in 2015. During that time I was still in high school back in New Zealand, and because the lead up of the World Championships is from February, March, etc., those times at school for me were basically the beginning and are quite important parts to get the year underway. So it was that fine line of balancing schoolwork whilst also dancing hard and training for those 2 months whilst I was over there. It was very enjoyable over there, getting to meet all the Americans and train with all of them there, but I knew that was just the first taste of what was to come. So after my first initial stepping stone of dancing for the Carey Academy over in Boston, and then coming back home to complete my final year of high school, I knew that after that I always wanted to carry out my childhood dream, which was dancing for a school overseas for an extended period of time. In 2016, I then started my degree in sport management at Massey University, and whilst I was there, it very much took me back to this dream I had of dancing overseas. I remember at 13 years old when the movie Jig came out, and watching Joe Bitter and John Whitehurst, who were the world champions for the Carey Academy that year. Those boys really inspired me, and as I came back home in the car with Mum at 13, Mum and Dad remember me saying, "Oh, I just would love to go to that school." And Mum and Dad were thinking, "Oh my God, this is like on the other side of the world, this is insane." And they really inspired me, and I really wanted to go over there and live out my dream. So midway through my degree, I had a chat with the counsellors at the university, my parents, and my dance teachers in New Zealand, and we all agreed that this would be a fantastic dream to follow, to go overseas and dance for the Carey Academy in England. So I went to the UK Embassy in New Zealand, I got my 2-year working visa, I packed up everything at home, and then I set out to follow my dream over in the UK to dance for the Carey Academy in Birmingham for 2 years. So with moving over to the other side of the world to dance over in Birmingham, there were certainly some large obstacles that you could expect. I think in particular at first, moving away on my own at 18 to the other side of the world, it was quite hard because I missed my family quite a bit, and especially with the time zones, I could really only speak to them either first thing in the morning or really late in the evening. Also, with moving over there and being in a country that I'd never been before, I had to go out and I had to find myself a job so I could pay for living expenses and help pay for my classes. I also had to find a source of transport and find a car so I could get to and from classes, and also just get my bearings. I think was one of the first obstacles as well, just with being in a brand new country. In spite of these first initial obstacles, I was very grateful to be able to stay with Riley, Renee and Paul, who are literally my second family over in the UK. That certainly helped eliminate one of my big obstacles of finding a place to live, and it was certainly a place that I could call home. So with moving over to the UK, as you can imagine, setting out to achieve a goal, or even anyone in a journey, there's certainly its ups and downs, and it's very much like a roller coaster ride. And I certainly experienced some struggles whilst I was over in the UK. One of my biggest struggles was certainly the ability to remain motivated and remain on the path that I wanted to set out to accomplish. One of the key struggles that I was faced with was, unfortunately, injuries. I had 2 pretty decent injuries that fell, you could say, at pretty unfortunate times. One of these being my first injury, which was I'd only just got to England really. I was there about 4 to 5 weeks, and as you can imagine, I was really eager, super motivated to be over there, in such a euphoric state, just loving life. It was I think like my second private, John Carey, one of the teachers at the Carey Academy, which is like a one-on-one session, and I broke my foot during that class. And as you can imagine, mentally that was really, really tough for me. Basically seeing my foot just swell up like a balloon, and then having to make my way to the doctors to get an x-ray in a country 27 hours from home, to then being told your foot's going to be in a cast for 5 to 6 weeks. I certainly felt pretty helpless, and was certainly one of the most homesick times I felt. That injury fell at crucial times with majors too, so I missed out on the Great Britain Championships and also the All-Irelands, which I was again really looking forward to competing in. But luckily I had such an amazing support system over there, the Carey teachers, the Carey family especially, helping me a lot whilst I was first there. I managed to recover up really well, and then I could compete at my first competition over there, the competition which was the Midland Oireachtas, which was the qualifier for the Worlds, and I won, and that was a big sigh of relief. Then really the second injury that was a bit of a prolonged one that I found, I would say, the toughest was I was battling quite a bad hamstring injury. At the time I didn't realise, but it was pretty much torn. Whilst I was dancing in the classes, I was in quite a lot of pain. I couldn't have the range of flexibility that I wanted. And certainly that was one of the toughest times for me to remain motivated, because that lasted quite a lot through 2017. Obviously there were sacrifices and things in place that I had to do whilst I was in the UK. For instance, I had to work, obviously to help fund myself for petrol money, living expenses, etc. My mum and dad were very helpful and did an amazing job to help me whilst I was over in the UK with that too, but ultimately I always wanted to try and live the dream and supply myself to the best of my ability. Being really injured, it was tough when my day schedule, for instance, was waking up at 6 o'clock to then try beat traffic to drive an hour plus to Tamworth JD, which is where I work, to then work like 8 till 5 on my feet, to then have a quick break at the Whitehurst house where I'd catch up with the boys, and then John and I would drive to class. Heading back to Worcester, where I was based, was quite far from the studio, and sometimes motorways were even shut, so it meant that my days were sometimes like 6 in the morning to like 11 at night. And because of that hamstring injury, it felt like those sort of sacrifices and those things that I was doing during the day weren't really worth it for me, because I was like, you know, I'm doing all this and at the end of the day I'm there to dance, and my performance and it just isn't great. Yeah, that was certainly a really big challenge for me. With all that being said, I actually decided to go back home for 3 months just to kind of take a deep breath and reevaluate everything. And then I think certainly that leading into the next part of my journey there, that was certainly very crucial for me coming back home. I always knew that with my journey being a 2-year working visa, I kind of broke it down and thought of it as like a race, and kind of went back to like any journey, whether you've got an end goal in mind. You might have obstacles in your way, but at the end of the day, those things are going to happen. And I accepted that, you know, those injuries had happened, but I didn't want that to define my time whilst I was over there. I had that 8 to 10 months left of my time there, and I knew that I just wanted to give it my all. And I said, you know, maybe I had these ups and downs, but we can finish really strong, and let's make this really last time just the best time yet. When I came back over, I was really lucky. When I was training for the Worlds in 2018, I had Kieran Bryan over from Sydney, Australia, and then Connor Regan over from Long Island in New York, and they were both in my age group / competition training for the Worlds at Carey. And the three of us, it was really a great motivator, because that certainly pushed all of us to keep in shape and give our best performance. I knew that I wanted to take care of my body and try and not get injured, so I was doing lots of hot yoga classes, I was doing additional stretches, I was also eating really well too, to ensure that I could be in the best shape. I then won the Midlands again when I first came back over from New Zealand to qualify for the Worlds, And then I was really lucky that in the Worlds in 2018, when I had my family over, my mum and my sister, I ranked a personal best of 6 in the world for solos, and then in the senior Carey, which is teams dancing, I got 2nd in the world, and that was really, really special to me because that felt like I had really overcome the sort of barriers of injuries. That to me, especially in my competitive dancing career, was certainly where I felt the sacrifices were worth it. So in regards to show dancing was something that I'd always wanted to get into, and this very much stemmed from a young age when I was giving my best Flatley impressions when watching Lord the Dance. I'd very much lived out my competitive dream, which was dancing for the Carey Academy over in England, and my next sort of dream was to essentially dance in a show and potentially have the opportunity to dance in a lead role. I was very grateful in late 2018 to receive an email from Brent Pace, and I was offered a position with the cast for the big Australia and New Zealand tour that commenced throughout the year in 2019. At the beginning of 2019, I was on tour with Murphy's Celtic Legacy. Once that had finished, I essentially had 4 days off in Florida, and then I flew straight from Florida in the US to Melbourne, and then I made my way up to Bendigo, where I met all the cast there, and then I started my time on the Australian and New Zealand tour. So during my time with A Taste of Ireland over the past year, I've certainly been given some pretty amazing opportunities. As I said before, one of my lifelong dreams as a child was to potentially perform in a lead role with a touring Irish dance show. And I was very grateful that during the long Australia and New Zealand tour that I was given this opportunity to be one of the male understudies within the cast. This meant that during the tour I was able to rotate in and out as the lead role, which was truly really special and something that I'd always wanted to do. Not just that, whilst I was on the tour, I also learned some pretty important skills whilst I was there, and certainly some values that I carried across from my time over in Birmingham. One of these, I think, was certainly time management, making sure we were on time for bus calls in the morning, and making sure that I had everything organised, especially with living on my own overseas. I was quite self-sufficient, you could say. Also tying into the opportunities that I've had within A Taste of Ireland, during the Christmas tour in Victoria in late 2019, I was offered the position as dance captain. And certainly being a dance captain and having the responsibilities of looking after the dancers and making sure that the lineups were correct, and if there was any general inquiries with them, making sure everyone was all good. Certainly A Taste of Ireland taught me some pretty important values and characteristics of leadership, which was really cool, and that's something that I want to tie into my career outside of Irish dancing, because I'm in the process of studying a Bachelor of Business Management and Leadership. I was able to take those skills that I learned within A Taste of Ireland and apply them to the degree that I'm studying for, which was really cool. I was also very blessed to create some pretty amazing friendships whilst I was on tour. These friendships stand very far and wide, all the way over in Ireland, in England, in America, and also Australia and New Zealand. Not just that, but I also created some pretty amazing memories with these friendships whilst on tour too. I would say one of the big highlights for me was when we were in New York for the APAP conference in January earlier this year. A couple of these highlights for me feature an amazing New York food tour with the infamous Charlie Galloway, who is one of the musicians here on A Taste of Ireland. We hit all the local food spots and it was honestly amazing. It was so much fun. And then not only that, but my other really good pal, Jonty Moore, we managed to watch a basketball game together in Madison Square Garden, which was so cool. It was kind of like a childhood bucket list thing for the both of us. And we also managed to watch a Broadway show called Beetlejuice together in Broadway, which was really, really awesome. So yeah, that's certainly something that is really special to me, is just the friendships that we created, because we're such a big family here. And I'm really grateful for all those opportunities that I could have with my good mates whilst I was on tour. So really, with my story of just this little kid from New Zealand at the time who was dancing at local scout hall, who then went over to Australia for their first competition, to the World Championships, to then decide that they want to move all the way to the other side of the world to carry out a dream of theirs. The advice that I'd give to you guys if you want to live out a dream, or you want to, move overseas to Irish dance, is don't let anyone tell you that your dream is too big or too small. You really only get one shot at life. You really got to take that opportunity of life as it comes, because you never know what could be around the corner. If you want to go over and dance over in Ireland, go do it. Like, if you want to audition for America's Got Talent and sing the old triangle like we do in the show, go do it. No one's stopping you from doing that. And honestly, like, if you have that dream, from my experience, like, I decided whilst I was at uni, I was like, right, I'm gonna sacrifice everything and I'm gonna go over there and live that dream. Now I have so much reservation and peace that I've known that I've done everything to achieve that goal and I've lived it, rather than spending some of my life in regret, being like, I really wish I went over there and did that before it was too late. And I have a quote here just quickly from Walt Disney: all of our dreams come true if we have the courage to pursue them. That's Walt Disney, and I think that is a really, really good quote, and I think that's really applicable to anyone if you want to set out and do something. So that'd be my piece of advice. I also had some fan questions as well that I wanted to answer. So Rory Doherty from Birmingham in England asked how class my time was there. It was amazing. It was so good to not only be able to live out my dream there, but also to create some amazing friendships and create some memories that will certainly last a lifetime. In terms of the dancing scene over there, very much John Whitehurst, Rory Doherty, Matt McPollan and Riley, we were all very much like brothers. We spent a lot of time together, and that certainly made my time there very enjoyable. Even JD Sports in Tamworth, who I worked for, all those guys there were incredible, and even still to this day I catch up with them all the time. Jack Moore, if you're watching, Jake Jordan, Aaron, Jude, Matt, the list goes on. Yeah, I think that was one of the big things that I really found enjoyable over there, was just all the friendships that I created, and still to this day who I keep in contact with. So just my final fan question was, what was my favourite memory whilst I was on the tour with A Taste of Ireland? I would say definitely my favourite memory would be performing lead for Auckland at home, because that was quite a pinnacle moment for me in my dancing career. And then also another one of my really favourite memories again was when we were in New York dancing over there in the Big Apple. It was truly amazing. So all in all, this has been my journey to the stage. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to my story, living out my dream dancing for the Carey Academy over in Birmingham, England, and also living out my dreams with show dancing, touring professionally, and also having the opportunity to perform lead roles within that company. I also hope that I can inspire others to follow out their dreams as well, because really nothing's impossible if you put your mind to it. A big thanks to A Taste of Ireland, all you guys if you've come to watch the show and help support us. Also my family, my grandparents, all the team over in the UK. I really thank you for helping someone literally live out their dreams from the other side of the world. Be sure to like and subscribe down below. There should be a subscribe button and a like button there. Definitely click it to stay up to date with more A Taste of Ireland Journey to the Stages coming out from the cast, and any fun videos that will be released. We can't wait to be back on the stage again. We really hope everyone has been keeping well and safe during these times. This has been my journey to the stage. Thanks for tuning in, and we can't wait to see you again soon.